Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be starting a reading vlog. This has been so long in the works and I just kept putting it off and off and off because there's going to be so many books involved, there's going to be so many videos involved, and this is the first of many. So I had my YouTube subscribers voting because I don't really use Instagram. I really need to start using my Instagram. Like I have a Bookstagram. I started Bookstagram before I started YouTube, but I'm so inept when it comes to social media that it's a miracle that I knew how to set it up. But I really need to start using that and using the polling on there. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might totally like redo my entire Instagram, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. So currently, make sure you're checking out the community polls, etc., because that's where I'm going to be getting your opinions on things. So I had put up a poll last night for you guys to vote on which book box to start with. And no surprise, I feel like Fairyloot won. Illumicrate was pretty close. The shocker was that almost no one voted for Litjoy. Unplugged had more votes than Litjoy did, which is like definitely not what I was expecting. Yeah, Fairyloot won, so we are going to be starting with Fairyloot. And I was kind of debating with myself if I just like wanted to start with my oldest books and go from oldest to newest, or start with the newest books and go newest to oldest, or just choose ones at random. But the choosing thing at random gave me anxiety. And then going from newest to oldest, I felt like I was gonna lose steam going into the older books. So we're gonna go oldest to newest, which is very frightening because I have a couple of like, I wouldn't say anything is super old on here because I have kept up with Fairyloot a little better than the other ones with age-wise. How these are gonna kind of work is I'm going to pick 3 books. We're gonna start with 3 books, and there will be more if like I finish one super fast and I don't have a lot to say about it. There may be another one thrown in there for content, or if I DNF. If I DNF, I'll probably put another one in here depending on how long the other ones go, because that's kind of the key. It just depends how long these take me to read because they are chunky. Fairyloot chooses very chunky fantasy books. So I'm looking at them right now and like 2 of them are rather large. And then my other issue is that these books are, most of them are the first in the series. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, do I read the rest of the series in the vlog as well? I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. We'll see what happens. This is kind of like we're rolling with it as we go, and hopefully it'll get better the more videos come out. So let's talk about the books that we're going to be reading in this vlog. Here is the beautiful stack of books that we have. And they're in order of how I'm gonna read them. Incendiary is gonna be first, then Defy the Night, and then Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm so scared. It's just books that I've been putting off because for one reason or another, I just didn't want to read them. For Incendiary, I actually have already read, so I can already talk to you a little bit about this one. But Incendiary is it's chunky, and I was reading other stuff, so this just kept getting put off, and I didn't love, the synopsis didn't like stick out to me. It just felt very generic, so I just didn't read it. Defy the Night is by Bridget Kemmerer, who burned me with her series, what is it, A Curse So Dark and Lonely? I don't remember, I have them somewhere here. But she burned me with that, so I was like, do I really want to read another series by her? Because I spent so much time reading that series and was heartbroken at the end just because it was not good. That's the problem. It just wasn't good at the end of that series. The first book was a 5-star, absolutely loved it. And then it just was crap afterwards. So I was like, do I really want to read another Bridget Kemmerer? But I'm going to, and I've heard really good things about this first book. It also got crunched at some point, which is really sad. So I'm gonna see if I can flatten this out because that's really sad. I'm also sad because I don't have the matching books for these. These are so old that I wasn't buying like well, not this one. This one I do have it. But these first 2, I didn't buy their sequels from Fairyloot because I just like didn't think about it because I hadn't read them yet. And especially with Incendiary, I wasn't buying like extra books at that point. And I thought about getting this one, but I was like, do I really want to get a Bridget Kemmerer? So I'm going to be so pissed when I love this and I can't get a matching copy. I'm going to be so mad. And then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess. This one got put off because number 1, it's enormous. I'm always terrified of just huge books. It's enormous. And I heard like differing things on this. This one has a lot of like people who absolutely love it, and then a ton of people are DNFing it. So I don't know like where I would stand with this one, and it makes me nervous because I have already bought the second book. I do have a matching copy of this one, and they're stunning. I hate not liking stunning books. But anyway, so yeah, these are the three that I'm gonna read, and I'm really nervous. So I have started Incendiary. I ended up reading, I think, 52 pages. Yeah, I'm on chapter 5, and it's good. It's easy to understand. I was a little worried. This one is following our main character, Ren, and this is definitely a very different world than ours. So there is definitely some world building at the end, but instead of doing like just info dumpy stuff, it's kind of just telling you how the world is through the action that's taking place. So it is like a little bit of like a learning curve, but this is kind of how I prefer it. I prefer the action happening and you kind of figuring everything out as we're going. But we're following, like I said, we're following our main character, Ren, and the book opens up with the prologue situation where you find out that these people are basically outlawed and they're in hiding and the king is scared of them. And it does say it takes place in like a Spanish Inquisition-esque era kind of thing, but like magic. So there's a group of people who have these super powerful magical abilities, and they have been outlawed, and they are not allowed here. If you're practicing magic, you're gonna be killed. So it doesn't even matter if you're practicing magic. If you have magic, you're done. And so this group of people called the Whispers is like a secret organization of these magical people, and they are trying to smuggle families out of the country. But it's getting harder and harder to do that. There's a prince in here that's like super smart, and he knows all the stuff that's going on. I don't think that's gonna be a romance because he's the one killing all of them. There's only so much redemption you can do. But that prologue is basically opening up kind of us learning about these magical people and that they're being persecuted and killed, and that our goal is to rescue them. And there's some secret weapon that they have that Ren our main character is trying to recover from the prologue, because she is not in the prologue, it's somebody else. So anyway, I feel like that was really complicated. So anyway, like I said, Ren is our main character. She is I don't even remember what they're called. She can steal memories, but she has to be careful because she can make a person a hollow, and she was used as a weapon by the king. So now her actual people, the magical people, don't trust her, but she's trying to gain their trust. And she is in a relationship with her like commander, Des. And that's just kind of how it opens. Like this isn't any spoilers or anything. This is just, there's a lot of stuff at the beginning. There's just a lot of stuff in the first 50 pages. But they just had a bit of a run-in with their first mission. It's very action-packed very quickly. And now they're kind of on the run back to where their hideout, I think, is. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I have seen a lot of mixed reviews on this one as well. Some people said it was kind of gory, kind of just rambly, kind of boring. So far, haven't gotten that. It does feel dark. I will say that. I feel like this is definitely a book that feels like characters are going to die. But yeah, so we're gonna continue reading this throughout today. I am planning to go to the Super Mario's movie with my husband at some point today, which is gonna be really fun, or tomorrow, I don't know, it's Friday. We may wait until Saturday to do that, but that's kind of the plans for today. Is just lots of reading, lots of watching YouTube, and maybe watch some movies and some reading. So I really thought I would have updated more on this book, but I have finished Incendiary. This is a 2-star. Oh my gosh. I was planning on updating about halfway through, but I literally had absolutely nothing to say about this book. It is probably the most boring fantasy book that I have ever read. Like, if it weren't for this video and me like desperately thinking something was going to happen, this would have been a DNF. I tried DNFing this about every 50 pages, but I was just like, I can't do it. I have such a hard time DNFing these like special edition books because like, what if I love the ending? What if it sets up a really good premise for the next book? What if blah, 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 blah? Yeah. I think I'm done with this series as well. This is a duology, and the second one is Illusionary, I think. And I just have no real interest going into the second one, other than I think the second one is actually where the romance starts. But like I was saying, young adult fantasy normally is my favorite. It's not that hard to get me involved, and it doesn't even have to be like romance heavy. I do like a romance in there, but this one, oh my gosh, it did that thing. It does the thing that I don't like. It does the thing that I don't like where there's a romance pre-established to the book's beginning. So like, it's very obvious that a romance, at least in this book, is our main character, Ren. I literally just finished this last night. Ren, yeah, Renata, and the other character, Des, who you know gets kidnapped. But the kidnapping doesn't happen for 100 pages. And I told you guys at the very beginning, the prologue was really, really cool. And it was. The prologue tricked me for the rest of this book because the prologue was so flippin' cool. There was so much intrigue in it. It was so cool. And then there's an opening scene with her finding the people, with Renata, our main character, finding the people from the prologue. And that was cool. And then it just like nosedived. It was so weird. So for like, I would say 50 pages, it was pretty entertaining. And then for another like 50 to 75 pages, you're just walking around and she's like drilling it into your head that you want Renata and Des together and you love them together, and the fact that they're in love and they love each other so much, but you have no like, there's no history there. There's no nothing. Like, she doesn't do a good job of like showing you their relationship. It's just a lot of them talking to each other and like their feelings for each other that you don't really understand because you weren't there for it. So it's a lot of just shoving that down your throat so that you care when he's kidnapped. And then there's like kind of an action sequence that I wasn't really interested in when you're trying to go find him, and then the rest of the book starts. And it was so boring. So for the next 100 pages, because it's a 450 page book, the next 100 pages were them just kind of like lost and not sure what to do and wandering around and trying to figure out what their next step is. And it was so boring. And it's not even like, a book like this needs to have multiple point of views. You're just in Renata's head in this one, so it's very one stagnant point of view, and sometimes I really, really like that, like when there's a heavy romance involved, but because there's not a heavy romance, it's just her freaking out and wallowing and not sure what to do. You don't have any other points of view to break that up, you don't have anything else going on, and you're in one location pretty much like majority of the book, well, the first half of the book. So it really needed a second point of view to give something else because it was just so one note the entire book. So then I pushed through it because I was like, okay, she's eventually going to the palace. That's the point of this book. We know that she's eventually going to be in the palace and doing political intrigue stuff. I was like, okay, I can do that. So it took to halfway through the book, maybe even a little past it, for her to get into the palace in the court section of the book. And even when you're in the court section of the book, it's so boring. Like, and I don't understand a lot of the motivations. Like, I don't understand why the characters were doing some of the things that they did. I really don't get it. And I don't understand some of the relationships. And then half of it is her, what made it really boring is half of it was her, so she's like a memory stealer. Half of it is her going through people's memories of the past, and it's such a tell you, not showing you kind of book. I hate books like that, where everything is pre-established in the past, and the way that you are solving the mystery is not really by her figuring anything out, it's by her looking at memories and being told everything. I hate that. I really, really don't like that in a book. That happened in The Cartographers. Same situation where characters are just telling her the things that happened in the past. I don't like it. It's not fun. There was no reason this had to be 450 pages. You know it was too long when the sequel, I looked it up, the sequel is 100 pages shorter. that should never be a thing. Sequels should always, in my opinion, be longer because there should be more to like suss out in the sequel. There's no reason that the sequel should be longer or should be shorter than the first book. This feels like a second book in a trilogy. It feels like a filler book where the first book was the relationship between her and Des and her escaping the palace the first time and her becoming a whisperer and her doing all this stuff. And then the second book is Des being captured and her going to the castle, etc., blah, blah, blah. And the next book is the wrap up, what's actually happening, what's going on exactly. Because this, I mean, I would say the last 50 pages were actually pretty good. And the only reason it didn't get a 1, because it does, like, it promises a romance to start. It promises some mysterious intrigue going on, but I'm afraid it's just gonna be more of the same boringness because it's just her talking about what she wishes she could have done, her stealing memories of like stuff that sometimes are completely unrelated or just like there to make you feel bad for her and the people she's stealing the memories from. So I just, it was just so boring. So anyway, yeah. First book done, which is exciting. If you couldn't tell, I just woke up. I wear sleep shirts to sleep that are like hugely oversized, and this one is I love this one. Look how cute it is. I love it. So yeah, finished with this one. I don't know if I want to continue into a fantasy book right now. I feel like I need a little bit of a palate cleanser before I go back to reading more fantasy because I don't want to jump into a fantasy book and instantly be like bored because I didn't like this one. I am going to quickly intro Defy the Night so that the intro for it is there and I don't have to do it again. And I can just jump into updates once I finally get to reading it. I'm still sad about my copy. I'm so sad about it. This is the one I'm sad that I didn't get the second one because I feel like I'm going to like this one. This definitely feels like one that I'm going to enjoy, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it because of a curse of dark and lonely. So apparently in this one, there is a sickness that has been ravaging the land. The only known cure is an elixir made from a moonflower petal, which is severely limited. The king holds a tenuous peace with a ruthless hand. Out in the wilds, we're going to be following an apothecary apprentice, Tessa Cade. And she and her best friend, Wes, oh no, risk their lives to steal moonflower petals and distribute the elixir to those who need it most, but it's still not enough. Apparently our main character is going to be sneaking into the castle or to the palace, and she wants to fix Candela, and there's a brutal event that happens. Oh no! Okay, now I'm concerned, because that sounds a lot like the last book we just read. Oh no. Okay, let me look at the art, because that's what I forgot. I should be looking at like the art on the back of these, because they can give hints about the book. And if you look at the art on Incendiary, it's her with 2 men. And the descriptions are very obvious. So I was like, I kind of should have guessed what was going to happen at the end of that one. And like the romance, etc. But I didn't think about it until after I read it. This time I'm thinking in advance. Okay, we have only 2 characters in here. I'm guessing our main character, Tess, and possibly Wes. So I kind of just want to read like a cut and dry romance because I really don't like the romances where they have like a first love kind of thing and you have to, and like you're told they love each other and then that's not like who they end up with. So I don't love that. I'm not a fan of that unless it's done very specifically. It has to be done very specifically. I could not name a book that does that I like love. Throne of Glass is probably the only one, but you don't even see him. Like he is way in the past. So that's different to me. Like I'm talking about someone who's in the book at the beginning, goes away, and there's a new romance. That's, I literally can't name a book that does that. So concerned because this sounds like Incendiary. It's a lot shorter though, so if I don't like it, actually, if I don't honestly, oh god, it's 425 pages, but they're like small. No, if I don't like this one, I probably will DNF this one just because I have not liked a series previous that this author has written. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go do some treadmill this morning. I haven't been doing it the past 2 days because it is Sunday now. I don't know when I updated last. I think I updated Friday maybe, but I just read all day yesterday, didn't do anything, hung out with my husband all day. Friday we went and saw Super Mario Brothers movie, which was okay. Neither one of us were like super impressed with it. We like Dungeons and Dragons way more. So if you're between those two movies, definitely see Dungeons and Dragons. That one was so funny. But today I think we're just chilling again. We really needed to go to the grocery store, but I don't think that's happening. Carolina Hurricanes play game 4 in the playoffs today. So we're definitely going to be watching that. I think that's at 1 o'clock. So I'll probably be reading, I don't know, because now I kind of want to like jump into this, but we'll see. You'll see when I update you next what ends up happening. But I'm going to go walk on my treadmill because my back is hurting, and I think it's been helping my back, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm going to go do that, and I will update you guys later. I have not moved. I have not moved. All I did was skim through really fast, like the beginning, to see like what's up with it. Okay, this does something that I'm happy about. It's two different main characters, but it is not Wes who is on the dust jacket. It is the prince. So we all know what's gonna happen there. And he's one of the points of view, which I'm actually quite excited about, because I think that is going to help with breaking things up that Incendiary did not do. So, but when I saw his name, I was like, I gotta tell you guys really fast, because I was like, why is this happening? Although they said best friends, so they may, like, her and Wes are besties. So maybe they're not like in love at the beginning of the book. I don't know. I'm stressed now. I'm gonna have to start it. Because it's stressing me out, because I just don't want it to be like Incendiary. And so, yeah, I'm so stressed. So stressed. Okay, I'm gonna go treadmill and then start this. I don't know. I'm such a mess. Okay, it's definitely, I started Defy the Night. It's definitely hinting at something that I actually really like in books and fantasy books that is like, a lot of people don't like, I feel like, because it's so overplayed, but I love it because I just like simpler romances where there's not multiple people. But yeah, I feel like, I guess it's kind of a spoiler, so I won't say it, like my guess, but I'm liking, hopefully, what they're doing with this. I'm pretty sure that they're doing a trope that I really, really like. So as long as they are doing that, I'm gonna like these books, I think. Whew. It is, what is today? Monday. It is Monday morning. And I have to work today, which really sucks because all I want to do is stay home, watch movies, and read Defy the Night because I'm obsessed. If I wasn't going to work today, I would 1000% be able to finish this today. And I don't think I can because I didn't realize what time it was. Normally I get up at about 10 o'clock. I work second shift at a hospital. If you don't know already, if you've watched these, you definitely know. I say it all the time. But I ended up staying up till like, what time did I stay up till last night? Like 2 last night reading. Because I'm obsessed. I got to page 250, I think, of the 450-page book. I'm literally so obsessed. There's just like something addicting, even though it's like easy. The plot is so easy but intriguing. So the book is following our main character, Tessa, and she is an apothecary, and the kingdom is definitely being ravaged by this fever that is going around, and she is trying to steal enough of the only cure in order to help the poorer people of the area. Because it's like, it's interesting. It's one main ruler and then like 5 districts almost, like they're territories, and over each territory is its own ruler. So and the king, like only 2 of the territories actually grow the plant that makes the cure, but the king can't just like seize the territories because then there would be civil war between the territories. So it's almost like they're different countries that report to the same like ruler. So it's interesting. And then yeah, so only 2 of the territories, both of them very greedy. They obviously want to profit off of the cure. They are the only ones who make it, so they're charging outrageous amounts so that the kingdom can only buy so much, and what they're buying is being distributed between the different territories equally, and then if you need more, you have to buy it, and it's really expensive. So obviously the poor group can't buy it, so they're the ones dying. So our main character, Tessa, sneaks in at night, steals the plant, makes the elixir because she's an apothecary. Her dad did the same thing and was killed for it, her dad and her mom. And she's got a partner in crime, and his name is Wes, and yeah, lovely, so much fun. And then the other main character is Prince Korik, who is part of the crown. He is the justice's hand. God, this got so shaky because I'm waving my hand around. He's the justice's hand, so he is the one who inflicts all of the punishments onto everybody. So obviously he's like the bad guy, but he's secretly a softie. And like, this book does the most obvious trope, but also one of my favorites. So I don't even care. Like, it's so obvious, like, what was gonna happen. And I'm even more excited because it didn't wait to the end of the book. They revealed the big reveal, which is, again, I don't think it was supposed to be really a reveal. It was, hey, you know who this is because we gave you both points of view. We gave you his point of view, you know who he really is. It reveals that at like 30%. So now it's just like an enemies to lovers kind of thing mixed with trying to figure out what's going on with this fever. And I feel like that's kind of obvious what's going on as well, but I mean, maybe not. This is a guess, so like this is not actually giving anything away, but it does seem like the 2, at least one of the districts with the more annoying dude is potentially causing the fever, so therefore they need the whatever, like it's in the water, it's in something. Something is causing it. I think people are being poisoned by one of the territories. So, because one of the territories gets less sick than the other ones, and it doesn't really make sense other than if like they have less access to whatever the poison is. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. I am so obsessed with it. I love the characters. I'm obsessed with Tessa because it's kind of the same thing from A Curse So Dark and Lonely, at least at first. The main character is just a girl. Like, she's an apothecary. She doesn't know how to fight. She's not, like, really good at anything other than her, like, little apothecary job. Like, she's really good at that. She doesn't know how to fight. She doesn't know how to use a sword. She doesn't know how to do any of that stuff. And I like it because it's, like, more realistic. I feel like all these books show, like, these girls who are supposedly from a village and then they suddenly become, like, assassins. They know how to fight. I mean, obviously, I feel like that's probably gonna happen because it happens in all of them. But currently, she's just a girl who knows how to do sciencey things, which is cool. So I'm obsessed with it. I literally can't. So I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna kind of hang out this morning. I gotta go shower. I have a wicked headache from staying up a little too late in the dark reading on my phone, which was not very smart. But I didn't want to wake my husband up because he had to go to sleep early because he had to get up at like 5 this morning. So yeah, I need to go shower. I'm gonna go read. And then I gotta go to work. I really don't want to, but I gotta go to work. Well, it is a Wednesday morning. It is super gloomy. And man, I was planning on like doing some filming today, but I don't think that's gonna happen other than starting my book club vlog because I really gotta start that. So I have finished Defy the Night and I think I'm gonna take a break after this one and read something else before jumping back into fantasy, because Daughter of the Moon Goddess is probably going to take all of my focus. Like, all of it. But anyway, like I said, it is Wednesday morning. I don't have anything to do today, which is awesome. So I have all day to read and kind of get through my book club book that I really need to start reading. It's pretty short. I'm a little nervous because I've heard some mixed things lately about this book. Like, I used to only hear like really good things about it, and now I'm starting to hear mixed things, and I'm like, oh crap. So anyway, yeah, so that's kind of my plans, and I am going to watch Bodies today. I've been trying to catch up on a bunch of horror movies that I've gotten like behind on watching. So I watched Midsummer a couple days ago, which was super fun. And then I just watched Scream 6 yesterday, which was really good. It was really good. I have some critiques on it. It's definitely not my favorite in the franchise. I like 1 and 4 at least better than that one. I may like 5 better than 6. I'm mixed. I plan on rewatching the whole series, kind of figure out what my actual ranking is, because I don't know where 5 and 6 precisely place in my ranking. But currently, if I don't include 6, I would say 1 is my favorite. I love 4. I know, like, I think 4 is underrated. I know a lot of people do love it, but 4 is so good. 4 is so much fun. It's like a rebooted, because I think, yeah, 4 was after the break. 4 was like, 3 came out in like 19 something or early 2000s, and then 4 came out in like 2014 or something. I'm not sure about the 100% of the dates, but there was a big gap between 3 and 4, and so everything was like updated and redone and kind of brought back to like a little more scary, but it was still like some comedy in it that Scream 1 had. So yeah, so 1, 4, 5, yeah, I don't know where to put 6. I'm leaving 6 out. 3, and then 2. 2 is my completely least favorite, which is probably why, that could be why this one's my least favorite, because they basically have made and said Scream 5 is basically like a reboot. It's a reboot of the first one. It's supposed to have brand new cast, same kind of stuff going on, etc. New friend group. So the first one is supposed to be like a reboot of the first one, with our original cast in it. The second one, or 6, does seem like they were going for a bit of a reboot of the second one as well. They're in college, they have a couple new friends, they're still dealing with stuff that happened from the first one, a couple people from the friend group survived the first one. So yeah, so it's interesting, but maybe that's why I didn't like 6, because it does reminisce a lot of Scream 2. So I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna go off of that because I could talk for hours about that movie. I have actually in like I'm in a couple horror Patreon groups, and yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. So anyway, let's talk about Defy the Night. So I did finish this yesterday. I definitely would have finished this on Monday if I didn't have a bunch of stuff to do, but I loved this. I love this. I give this a 5-star. This is so good. And now I'm just like, oh my god, because it's Bridget Kemmerer. I gave Curse of Dark and Lonely 5 stars and then hated the rest of the series. Also, thought this was a duology. It's not. There's no reason for this to be a trilogy. Like, literally zero reason for this to be a trilogy. This should just be a duology. I don't understand how this possibly could be a trilogy, which makes me even more nervous. Now I'm thinking like 2 is just going to be a slog and drag and just be miserable to read. And I'm afraid that it's going to introduce like new characters, kind of like how the second A Curse of Dark and Lonely. So basically the second A Curse of Dark and Lonely was not about the original characters in this one really at all. It was about the other characters. So I feel like, oh man, I don't know because I don't have a copy, which is even more sad because I was too scared to buy this. I thought I wasn't gonna like it because of the Bridget Kemmerer issue. So now I don't have Fairyloot matching copy, and they're B formats. So no normal copy is going to match it. So I'm just like, I'm mad. So now I gotta search for a B format Fairyloot copy of this, of the second book, which is gonna be super fun. It's probably gonna take me years to find, which is great. So anyway, like I was saying, this one's following Tessa and Korik, and I love both of them. They're both, see, it did follow a little bit of what the plotline of Incendiary was, but this did it so much better. So much better. And Tessa and Korik were such a good, like, duality of characters. Like, they're so different that it was so much fun reading from both of their perspectives. And it was so different from both perspectives that you got, like, this whole picture idea of what is going on, which you didn't really in Incendiary. It was very flat. So I loved this. I loved both the characters. I loved the situation that was going on because it was a very gray kind of situation about whether the royals were correct, the people are correct, the rebellion. Very fun, very interesting, posed a lot of good questions. And I really, there was a little bit of a mystery in here. Like, you're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. And when they finally revealed it at the end, it felt like a really good payoff. Like, it felt like they led you pretty much to the answer, but at the same time, it was still like, oh my gosh, they were messing with stuff. So it felt really good when you finally were told, like, what exactly was going on. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about this. I really enjoyed this one. Very nervous for the next one. Anyway, that is kind of my little update. I do think I'm gonna take today and read something else. I may read a chapter or two of Daughter of the Moon Goddess just to get, like, a feel for the book, because I don't even know anything about the book. I don't know anything about the book other than that people seem to love it, mostly. And then there's a small contingent of people who DNF it. So I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna like it. It definitely seems like that type of book that I would like. Because I do know it's like, I think it's a retelling of some type of lore, and I tend to like those. Yeah, I think I'm gonna read Last Tale of the Flower Bride today. You're not gonna have any updates on that because that's for something totally else, just totally different. If you want updates on that, you'll have to go check out the Lazy Book Club, because that might be coming out before this. Actually, yeah, that probably will be coming out before this. Anyway, that's kind of my little update. That's the plans. I'm gonna go watch Bodies, hang out with my dog because he's a little mad at me right now, and then read some stuff. So that's the plans, and I will update you whenever I end up reading a couple chapters of Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Filming something else, so might as well give a very quick update on Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I am not very far. It's also taken me a while. I think it's been like a half a month since, 2 weeks since I last updated and read anything, just because I was so burned out on fantasy books that I switched over to thriller books. So my thriller vlog that I started after is gonna come out first because the books were so much shorter. They were young adult thriller horrors, so much quicker to get through than chunky fantasy books. But I have started Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and it's interesting. It definitely reminds me of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea with the more flowery writing. It's very currently detached from the characters. I think I'm at like page 40. Currently very detached from the characters, so I'm not feeling much emotion right now, but the story is kind of interesting. But I'm very much like attached to people in stories, so I hope that kind of writing changes, or at least start to feel somewhat attached to these characters, because so far writing style not my favorite. But now that I actually have read some, I know what this book is about. It is about our main character, who I could not tell you what her name is for the life of me, and she is immortal, so is her mother. Her mother is the moon goddess, and it turns out that she's been hiding her daughter away, and her daughter accesses her powers when she's not supposed to, and it creates this almost like rift or not rift, but this like power surge. So the kingdom, who is keeping the mother imprisoned in the moon palace place, comes up, is upset, and the moon goddess, the mom, decides to hide the daughter and send her down to like the mortal planes. But her plan goes awry, and our main character is instead sent into the worst place possible, and she crash lands in the celestial area. God, what are these places called? Celestial Kingdom. She crash lands in the Celestial Kingdom, and we're going to go from there. So all I know from this point on, I think she like meets the prince potentially, or at least a guard or something, and trains with them. I don't know. This is as far as I've gotten, and she is just crash landed trying to figure out what's going on. And she has a job in like a household in the Celestial Kingdom, and she's just trying to hide. So that's all that I've gotten so far. I mean, it's pretty fast moving, but again, the writing is what's kind of holding me back. So I'm going to continue reading that today. I am starting a brand new vlog because I really want to get more vlogs out. And the only way to do that for me, because I am a little bit of a slower reader, is to read 2 of the books simultaneously. So as I'm finishing this Fairyloot vlog, I'm going to be starting my booktube overhyped books vlog. So I will be reading The Last Housewife. That's a little sneak peek. If you read through this, you'll know kind of what I'm reading. But yeah, I will be reading The Last Housewife at the same time, which is good because I won't confuse the two, because that's an issue that I'm having right now with my Wheel of No Appeal March pick. It's a huge chunky fantasy book. Again, you can probably guess what it is. It's like this big. Standalone book. And I was starting to get confused between some of the characters in that and some of the other fantasy things that I'm reading for the Fairyloot vlogs. It's such a pain. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna chill today. I do need to run to the library to pick up some holds, so that's kind of the extent of what I'm doing today and reading. And that's about it. I think there's a lot of reading sprints today happening, and Vanderpump Rules is on tonight. So you know for a fact I'm going to be watching Vanderpump Rules. And I tend to read during the commercials because I do watch it live, because my best friend watches it where he lives at the same time, and we text each other because he's the one who got me addicted to it. So anyway, that's all I got for an update right now. And I will update you kind of if my feelings change about things, or just when I finish the book, because I don't know how much of this one I'll have like a lot to say about currently, just because the way it's written, and it's kind of like the Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea didn't have much to say about other than like I liked it. So I feel like it may be the same situation, but again, we'll see. I'll check in later. I'm so mad. I already filmed a whole update and my phone glitched, and it's just a black screen with no nothing. I'm so mad. So anyway, this is take 2 of this update. I got to part 2 finally of Daughter of the Moon Goddess. It's a really pretty page, which is at 166 pages, and I pretty much feel about it the same way as I updated earlier. I don't have any emotions for this book. I don't care. It's also going to go into a love triangle, I'm pretty sure, which I don't love. If it's like, okay, most of you know I don't like love triangles. If it's a situation like The Vampire Diaries, I feel like this is the best way to explain it because everybody's seen pretty much both of these. If it's The Vampire Diaries where it's like Stefan, Damon, Elena, I hate that. I hate that because half of fandom's gonna be unhappy, half of them's gonna be really happy, but everyone's still gonna feel bittersweet about it because you still like the other one, kind of. I don't like that. I don't like when there's 2 really, really good choices and you have to pick one. I don't like it. I don't like it. I want more of a Twilight situation where you still like Jacob. Like, I liked Jacob, but it was very clear she was going to end up with Edward. And Jacob's more like jealousy fodder for the relationship. I hate calling him that, but he's more like jealousy fodder, and then he kind of turns into a little twerp. That's what I want. If they're going to do a love triangle, I'd rather jealousy fodder and you never took this romance seriously kind of thing. But I have a really bad feeling I'm gonna like the guy that she's not supposed to end up with. Very, very, very possible. I also don't love that there's time jumps in this. I hate time jumps. I really hate time jumps unless they're like middle of the book. Like right now would be a time jump I would be okay with because we finished a section, we understood a lot of things going on. Then it's okay to have a time jump because we've kind of, we finished a section nicely. So a time jump now would be okay. But there was already a time jump in the like front where she joined the palace and like 2 years has passed. And I was like, but we're not getting to know her or the romance at all. So do you think I'm going to care? No. The answer is no, I'm not going to care about her or the romance because you've cut so much time out that when they come back from the 2-year time jump, they're besties, they're doing everything together. And I like the montage of them doing stuff together, but it's not 2 years worth of montage. So I'm just kind of disappointed how this was written. And I'm bored sometimes. I don't even know how to explain how I feel about this book. Anyway, I'm gonna continue reading this morning if I can. I do work today, so I have about 2 hours to eat some brunch, I guess. I always wake up too late to call it breakfast. I'm gonna eat some food, and then I'm going to shower and then read some. So I got some stuff to do this morning. Not DNFing this one. I am not. I'm not doing it because no, I have the second book. I'm not doing it. I'm not DNFing. It did cross my brain already. It did cross my brain where I was like, do I just DNF this? But no, I'm gonna break my own rules. No matter how boring this gets, I'm finishing this. So I don't care. I'm finishing this and hoping I like it. Okay, I take back everything I said about this book. Yeah, I'm obsessed. Part 2 definitely did what I was hoping, went in a totally different direction. Oh my gosh, the action sequences are so good. The army stuff is so cool. The military stuff is so cool. I am literally obsessed, and I feel like I actually know the characters better now. I'm loving it. I'm loving the tension that's happening. I'm still iffy about the love triangle thing. That's definitely a thing that's going to happen, but oh my gosh, I can't stop reading, and I'm so upset because I need to go shower. I've been putting off everything to just get through some of this book because I was like, okay, let me power through some of part 2, and that has not been an issue. I thought I was gonna have to force myself to read like 3 chapters, and I've read like 5 or 6 or 7 chapters. I am obsessed. So now I'm like even more sad that I have to go to work because I would just sit here all day reading this. And I'm working on, that's the other reason I'm upset I have to go to work. I'm working on my TBR game that I have decided to create, and my drawing skills are atrocious. So it's taking me forever to get something even semi-presentable. But it's going okay so far. It's going okay. It's not great, but it's going okay. Yeah, I finally finished this book, and I don't know how to feel about it. Like, I really thought this was almost a DNF at the beginning. This got like so much better after part 2, and I cannot tell you how many hours I spent reading this, like glued to the pages. I read this while I was at work. I read this morning. I finished it this morning, but I can't believe it was so good. I literally can't believe it's so good. I still cannot give it a 5-star though. I can't do it. I can't do it. So I think I'm gonna go with a 4.5. I think I'm gonna go with 4.5 just because that beginning was really rough for me. It worked out more than I thought it did. Like, it did more to my emotions than I thought it did. It was like secretly like going in there and like making me feel things that I didn't realize until later in the book. Like, I didn't realize my connection to the prince was like way stronger than it was, which was really surprising. So yeah, that kind of took me off guard how much I really liked that character. Obviously loved her main character. She actually became a character. I feel like she had no personality in the first part, but I feel like that was almost on purpose the more I read through this book. And then the ending was just so good, so good. I feel like if you look at my eyes, they're a little puffy because I've been crying this morning. But so good. So I think I'm gonna go with 4.5. I really can't talk about this book. There are so many deceptions and spoilers and stuff going on that I literally can't say anything other than I liked the dragon plotline. I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I like what they did with it. Love the dragons in here. So cool. And then the end was so good. The end was so good. I loved it. So definitely very happy that I read this. This was like way easier, obviously after part 1, way easier to get through than I thought it would. I am a little confused that this is seen as an adult fiction book. To me, this is young adult fiction. It has a lot of the same hallmarks as young adult fiction. The only difference is the maturity of the writing, and even then, some sections of it, this is why I got downgraded from a 5. Even towards the end, some of the dialogue was very stiff, some of it was very immature, so again, it felt very young adult, which is probably also why I liked it, because I tend to like young adult fantasy, which is why this got a 4.5, and Defy the Night, which arguably is probably not as good or strong of a book, but I prefer the writing in it, and that got a 5. So it's just like, I think between this and Defy the Night, it just depends on people's preference for writing style and how their characters and romances are written. So I liked the romance and the tropes better in Defy the Night, which is why it kind of took half a point higher than Daughter of the Moon Goddess, but they are very close. And that brings us to the end of the reading vlog. So let's quickly recap. I feel like this actually went pretty well. It definitely could have gone better with the first book, Incendiary, which I gave a 2-star. It was just really boring. It was really boring. I can see some people liking this, but there just wasn't enough action. There wasn't enough going on. The characters weren't compelling enough. So this is one that I would skip, and it's actually funny because Defy the Night, which is the one that I read after, which I gave a 5-star and loved, was very similar to Incendiary. So I would actually pick, like, if you're choosing between two fantasy books, I would definitely choose Defy the Night over Incendiary. This has a lot of the similar plot lines, a lot of similar relationship dynamics, but it was much more thought out. There was much more character development, and you got 2 points of view, which worked super well for the type of story this was. Yeah, very much love this one. 5-star. Loved it so much. Arguably probably the best book in this, but not personally for me. I feel like for other people this is the best one in the vlog because of the writing in a more adult style. Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I just finished, as I just said, 4.5, love it. So anyway, that's what I read in this vlog. I had a great time. I feel like I said, I feel like it was pretty successful. Incendiary, not really, but it knocked out one of those books I've had on my shelves for a very, very long time, which is exciting. That's all I got for this vlog. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it to the end, let's see, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Leave a moon emoji since that's the last book we read and probably the one that's going to stick out the most in this vlog. Yeah, so again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe so you catch more of the content. Like I said, we're going through our book box books, which is stressing me out. But we successfully got through one video, which is so great. Make sure you like the video and make sure you comment down below what you thought about the books if you've read them, or if you have read any of the books that are upcoming, if you're excited about. If you want me to do more Fairyloot or move to Illumicrate or one of the other boxes, let me know. And that's all I got for you, so I'll see you guys in the next one.